This week we're going back to Copenhagen, because at the same time the Germans were experimenting with new defensive and fortress technology at Feste De Mutzig, the Danes had embarked on the biggest fortress building spree of Danish history, upgrading all the defenses around Copenhagen. Now, the stories of the fortifications of Copenhagen have long roots in the many wars and battles for the city. The latest in 1807, where the British bombarded Copenhagen, making it obvious that the old fortifications were no longer adequate. And then the new war against Germany in 1864. Granted, the Danes were somewhat responsible for it, and they lost a large part of southern Jutland. It was now feared that the Germans would eventually invade and take over the rest of the country. So now a long political debate ensued about how to best defend the country and for how much money. Some advocated only defending the capital, while others, of course, the entire country. Obviously, being politicians, they couldn't agree. So other more innovative citizens began to take action. And it is from one of these that one of the largest and most impressive Danish 19th century fort comes into being, the fortress of Garda Hoy, which became a central part of the vast ring of fortresses surrounding Copenhagen. For 8 years, the fortress constructions were the largest construction site at the time in Denmark. And at the end, it consisted of a large number of forts, batteries, and 15 kilometers of ramparts and flooding areas. It nearly cost a civil war due to the political machinations. The Danish forts were clearly inspired by the Belgian Henri Brailmont, who was one of the premier fortress engineers at the time. In the coming episodes, we'll see a lot more of his designs and evaluate their strengths and weaknesses. But as Feste De Mutzig was experimenting with new designs, some of these were implemented in Danish forts here, and despite the Germans being the primary expected opponent of the next war, many of the guns and turret parts were also made in Germany. But many of the coastal forts we see around Copenhagen in the late 1800s certainly rival those of the Atlantic Wall decades later, both in design and layout. Most castles will have a crest, a royal crest, because they're built or designed to, from, or about some royal king or prince or something, but not this one. Independently self-taxed?
Yes.
Voluntarily self-taxed?
Yeah.
And paid for by private citizens?
The fort is finished in 1892. The most interesting parts of it for me is political history behind it. There's actually a private fort funded by the Danish people. It's a paranoid Dane from the southern parts of Denmark that had been taken by Germany back in '64, who came to Denmark and told us that the Germans would be coming and invading us and taking the country. Again. And he kept going on for 20 years until he realized nobody was actually listening that much, so he gathered a lot of money and resources and handed the money over to the army, who built this fortress in the position where they thought it would be most fitting. And after that, he gave them a piece of paper that said that basically they should use the fort to defend Denmark for as long as needed, and once done, he would require the fort returned. So privately owned for most of its existence.
Was it privately constructed, or did he get the money for the army, that's what the army built it?
Well, he handed the money over to the army, so the army did build it. It's all a part of the big defense project around Copenhagen. Big political debate in this time. First of all, most people agree that if we build a defense system near Germany, it will be a provocation and Germany will react by invading Denmark. Basically, the fear of Germany is so intense that everybody knows that Germany will invade sooner or later and we will lose the war. So mostly that's 20 years of debating how to not provoke the Germans into invading Denmark, and then finally reaching a conclusion that if we defend Copenhagen and just Copenhagen, maybe the Germans will not see that as an insult, and they didn't, and then we will be able to defend Copenhagen long enough for the king and the government to contact their allies and have them come save us. Because again, everything is built around the assumption Germany will invade, we will lose.
So this is the officers' mess, one of them.
Yeah.
How many people were stationed here?
We have about 450 people if we fill the fort. We would have had.
That looks like it used to be here.
Everything in here, the old bits, used to be here. This fort is protected first class. We are not even allowed to drill a hole in the wall without asking permission from Kulturministeriet.
And yet it was completely rebuilt, restored after.
Yeah, the front was. The thing is, the fort has never been destroyed. Since we never actually got to fight a war with it, everything actually fits. The main tower that we're going to have a look at hopefully actually works. And the only bits that has been replaced are the wooden bits. The armed doors there, and we have the fence here, which is called Stormgitter. Outside it would have pikes going down here and up there in this length, same as this. But inside here is just to keep the Germans in this area. And this tiny little thin piece of armor plate is not designed to stop bullets, it's designed to stop shock waves. And that's the reason why it's only 2 meters tall. No soldiers would ever reach this height, and that's why the skydeskår, what's that called?
Firing port.
The firing ports here are actually in a height where you can shoot through it when you're a small man, as opposed to if you look at the big doors where you have to stand on boxes. So this is very special. We close it, we stand behind it, and we throw hand grenades in. And since this concrete is extremely hard, this room will make shock waves going in and out and in and out and actually shake people apart, which is as bloody and unpleasant as you can probably imagine. So that one only holds the shock waves from hand grenades, and that's it.
And shrapnel.
Yeah, but the shrapnel of the First World War, hand grenades were not that big of a problem. It was mostly the shock wave. There would be some, but that's enough to take that.
And this is the main entrance to the fort?
This is the main entrance. This is the last line of defense. If this gate is breached, everything inside is just whatever you can make of it. There are no real defenses left inside after this gate.
And right next to the main entrance, guarding the long side of the fort, is a nice little caponnière. I always did enjoy these. This is not very big, it's small, it's simple, it has firing ports in all directions, and also room for a projector, guarding to both directions and slightly up the hill. The armament installed here were a little bit in doubt or a little bit in question, although from the mounting on the floor to me it looks like it would be fitting for a 47mm Hotchkiss rapid-firing cannon. Also, you had a small water-filled grave in front of the firing positions, so to catch shrapnel from grenades or bombs that would land too close.
This is the earth bank, and so we do have room for people to put small guns, handguns, rifles.
So, projector as well? So is there any rebar or steel or anything in the walls?
I have to say I've heard conflicting stories about that. Considering that the Sommerfeld burned by the French, I think there should be rebar inside, but I've been told that we did not use rebar.
Interesting, also I don't know. This was restored or original?
I think this has been replaced and not original either. I made a quick calculations earlier this day. It says modern money that would be around $16 million, which is 2 million Danish crown at the time.
At the time?
Yeah.
So that would be a lot more in today's money.
Yeah, in Danish money that would be about somewhere around 100 million.
There didn't used to be a driveway into
that hole was actually dug into the ramparts after the First World War when the fort was discontinued. and they decided to use it for storing ammunition. So when they had to bring the big trucks with lots of ammunition, this gate was too small, and they just dug a big hole.
So the supplies used to come in here when the fort was active?
This was the only entrance to the fort back then. So these 5 rooms here are the toilets, which is basically a bucket. It's not that we didn't have modern water toilets, but it was just easier with buckets. And so we had the nightman who comes twice a week to empty all the buckets. But that's not quite a lot of buckets. Supposedly around 8 buckets in each room for up to 450 men. And then, of course, because this is the army, there's a difference between officers. So this one is for around 8 to 12 real officers. These are for the around 16 to 18 promoted officers. And the last 3 toilets are for all the ordinary soldiers. So there's not a lot of room and not a lot of buckets. But it is a problem, and we had Frobenius, the German spy, who actually looked at this place and gave it great praise in his book about the Danish defense systems before the war. Said this fort is great, but apparently he did not like these toilets. He saw it as a security risk, as soldiers who are being shelled will not go outside to go to the toilet and stay inside, where there are no toilets. So he was a bit optimistic on the plans of defeating the fort if it would be attacked that way.
And with good reason. One of the World War I lessons learned was that fortresses literally surrendered due to the lack of water and poor sanitary facilities.
So the idea of having buckets and a nightman taking out the buckets may seem a little strange, as you could have running water inside the fort, but the problem is, with as the engineers have explained to me, that if you do not do proper sewage draining, then if you drop a shell in this mode, you can actually disrupt the sewage and block the pipes. And in worst case scenario, you will actually build pressure in the pipes that will push everything in the pipes back into the toilet and up into the toilet room. So no matter how you try to build plumbing in a fort like this at this particular time, it's going to be a problem. But obviously the big fear of having the buckets outside is that if the soldiers use whatever they can inside, then that will spread disease instead. So toilet situation in forts has always been a bit of a problem.
It turns into crap on a stick no matter how you twist it.
That's definitely true.
The mystery cutout.
It looks like maybe a small toilet for peeing. I don't know.
Unless this was never supposed to be here. Was there ammunition storage in here, or
Nope.
in any of these? None. This is just a wall.
This is just a wall.
Is it hollow?
Nope. It's supposed to be solid all the way through. There is supposed to be some lighting with some building, but it's only small bits. It's not like this at all. This is supposed.
And at the very corner of each strait, you could place pretty much any kind of weaponry that would hurl projectiles down the long strait an enemy would have to cross to get into the fortress proper. Of course, this was also the problem for soldiers inside having to go to the bathroom to cross this while being shelled by the enemy.
This was deeper, wasn't it?
No, I don't think so. This is basically it's just enough to fill it with water, so if a grenade falls in and explodes, it will not do much.
So it was full of water?
Yeah, it was as a defense against shrapnel.
Oh, that's different. And you had machine guns, or you only had machine guns? Or
I had machine guns, hand-driven machine guns.
The Maxim type thing?
Yeah.
No,
We did have Gatling guns up there, though.
Had Gatling guns?
Yes,
Yeah.
apparently we had. Everybody says so, but I haven't actually found the pictures of it myself yet.
There was light there. And this was installed in 1892?
Yep.
Or before?
Yeah. So when you turn on the chemical lights, they actually give a very sharp light. Gives a very good vision of everything.
So was that short burning or?
I think so. If it's the flash powder from the old kind photography, then yes, I guess it must have been fairly short burning.
But you had a projector over a machine gun,
Yep.
over the moat.
Yeah.
So that's where the water would come from. It'll run. That's to keep them filled.
Drainage.
Of course, so the rain drainage will fill this up as the moat. But it's double moat.
Yeah, because that's two bunkers. They may seem like one room, but they are separate bunkers controlling each moat. It's a bit different in design than the rest of the rooms.
Blackened from the soot of the stove.
Yeah, I believe that stove was over here somewhere. No, and over there was some sort of...
This is interesting.
Det er en ventilator. Det er et ventilatorskjold.
This is for a fan.
Yeah, this is for a fan. You can see the fan right next to
Yeah, that's a fan.
Yeah.
This is an old fan.
Yeah, this is part of the ventilation of the fort. It's hand-driven, but it is only used when we're actually firing the guns and need to clean out the smoke.
But this was periods. This is where the projector was on the other side, and the machine gun, or whatever weapon we figure out it was right there. I just think it's cool that you have all this stuff, and that looks like bigger fan blades. Oh, the restoration will be interesting on this one.
This one is probably a bit younger since that's electrical.
Yeah.
I guess I have to stay.
Tunnel. And this was a storage?
Oh, this is just ordinary man.
So okay, so this is where crew quarters.
Yeah, crew quarters. All of these halls here are for infantry barracks, for infantry guarding the flooding areas in all of Copenhagen.
They look smaller than the other one.
And one of the more interesting, newer stories as we enter deeper into the fort's hallways took place during the Cold War. Now, during the Cold War, Denmark played a pivotal role because of its physical location in NATO. Lots of spying going on all sides, lots of secrecy, and remember, nuclear weapons on both sides were in play. I remember most hotels, including the one my mother ran, had a small intelligence center in the basement, just in case, including for hosting high-level NATO meetings. However, we didn't expect to find anything like this in this fortress.
And there's no doubt that this is built as some sort of contact post for a nuclear assault war.
Yeah, this was built right in here.
Hvis du går ind i det bagerste rum derinde, så kan du faktisk komme ind og lys ind i det.
So the Cold War office.
Yeah, a very secret one.
And lead lined.
Yes.
It's really... So for the Cold War, they actually had the communication post in here.
Yep. These are the original manuals and papers. We have been cleared, these are not top secret anymore.
I figured if they were, they probably wouldn't be here.
No, we had a high-ranking officer who cleared the rooms.
Of course. Did you hear that, Vladimir? They're no longer of interest. Sorry, what? Alright. Bauteilengruppe, elektronische... This is in German.
Yeah, well, they were our friends. Cold War. They are friends.
Yeah, sure. Sure, whatever. All right, so communication papers, and this is very cool. This is very cool. In the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, we had a visitor after the fort opened as a museum who came here and said, I used to drive for this officer, and he put me off at the gate, stopped the car there, and he walked the rest of the way, and I never knew what happened. And I just want to know what the hell do you have in here? What is the big secret? And it's these final officers, lead-lined wooden shacks inside an old fort bunker.
And very rudimentary. And all the electronics start working, you want to go backwards to more
basics.
Yeah, this was built right in here.
The same rooms, all of them.
Very neat. Oh, storage for books and like, very interesting. Oh yes. Speaking of basic electronics. How unexpected! And then we found the Cold War.
How wonderful.
Absolutely. Very, very neat.
Yeah.
The old telex machine.
Yeah, we did have the NATO codes in this room. We did have everything spy related in very small scale. These are the bunkers, the gun placements for the defense. And this is, if I can get this off. As you can see, that's where the projector were. And you can actually tell that they had a real machine gun standing here. Because this is the gun emplacement again.
That's a very heavy mount.
Yeah. So that's the machine guns we expect.
It must have been something that's like World War II flank attachment size screws.
Yeah.
So into the wood platform and then bolted onto the platform underneath.
We have not seen any pictures that a real gun was supposed to be here, but it's true. Yeah. We have the same in here. The final bunker. Another gun down here.
Whoa, okay, yeah. That's just such a massive mount.
Yep.
Now I have to figure out just exactly what kind of mount would mount on this. Just, I mean, pre-World War I, if it's not a cannonette, it wouldn't even be a cannonette, it would have wheels. Just for a Maxim, it just looks so damn big for that. And the door arches were always red.
Yeah. Since in this part, Copenhagen area of the fort. It's a Danish officer and colonel, Sommerfeld, who traveled in Belgium and France and studied the fortifications there. And since French was our main ally at the time, he built everything after their models. And then, of course, redesigned it for Danish defense and put his own spin on it.
And is this integrated with other forts on a line?
Yes. All of the defense system here was designed as one big defense system. There were no separate lonely forts.
So they could support each other?
Yes.
Already back then?
Our main gun goes all the way up to the beginning of the flooding area, all the way out to the sea, and all the way down to the western ramparts, so we can cover all of the forts in the northern front from this fort alone.
Only 20 years after its construction, the artillery had evolved so far that the new long-range heavy artillery made it possible to shell the fort from a safe distance, and it was obsolete. The fortifications were so big and they needed too many men, and built with concrete, they could no longer resist the modern 42-centimeter grenades weighing over 900 kilos.
There would be 12 beds in here, with room for 24 people, and with the possibility of sleeping in 3 shifts, which makes it 72 people in this room. So that's not a lot of space, and if you have a wet November day, with the wet uniforms and smelly shoes, and this room would be absolutely horrible. And they say basically that all the bed sheets and everything were moist because of the air quality in forts are not good anyway.
And I don't see any ventilation of that time.
Oh, the ventilation shaft is shut down, but basically it's a little square up here.
But there was one.
Yeah.
So was that just an opening out to the outside, or?
Yeah, there's a special shield in front of it because again this is a private fort, so we have a special shield that covers the ventilation system. But other than that, it's designed to have a natural airflow that ventilates, and they did that quite well. But
and the window?
The window?
There was always a window.
Yeah, there was also a window. It had not that kind of shielding in front of it. It had panzer.
Armored shutters outside.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it looked quite different than what it does now. But yeah, there was always one. A wonderful exchange of letters between the German army and the German navy, where the German navy suggests taking Esbjerg because that's a possible landing site for English troops. And in order to take Esbjerg, they would actually have to start a war with Denmark. And they didn't want to because Copenhagen was probably going to be a bit of a problem. And then again, they do the same thing during the First World War when the Russians leave the war and the Eastern Front is at peace. They think that it would probably be a good idea to take Denmark before the English invade Esbjerg and start a northern front. So they really didn't like that idea, and the German army goes, "We would love to. It's an absolutely excellent idea. But it will take us around some 250,000, 275,000 men to invade Copenhagen, and we don't have that men right now. So we will have to pass on taking Denmark and just go straight to the Western Front." And then the American showed up. So.
And the whole concept of this fort was like many other forts. It wasn't to defeat the enemy, it was to hold them.
Yeah, simple strategy. Hold them far away for as long as possible. And so we have a special flooding system that will actually flood a huge piece, a huge area north of Copenhagen. And all of that is controlled from this fort. With Central Fort, the biggest fort on the front north line, and we have the guns that can reach all parts of the north line up here. So we are bigger.
So what was up here?
The electrical bits, that's just for lightning.
That was like light.
We were connected to the Copenhagen light company. Basically what they did with electricity was provide light in Copenhagen, and that's it. But in case we lost connection, we had our own generator, which was actually put inside the fort, an old diesel generator, which is by today's standard not a good idea. But back then the basic problem, the real problem was that the officers thought it made too much noise. The air pollution, not a problem, but the noise, we cannot have it inside. So we built a special bunker room for it outside. The Germans knew where we were, so we were a bit lax about the sound because the diesel generator actually at the time could be heard up to 5 kilometers away when placed outside. And that's why when you put it inside, the officers didn't want that. It's not about the smoke, it's not about the pollution, so it's about the sound. And since the Germans actually knew the position of the fort, they built a hole in the wall over in the other corner and put the diesel generator in there. And it's only supposed to be used if there's no electricity coming in from the lighting company in Copenhagen. So it's an emergency generator for light.
So that's the generator room.
Yeah, that's a new time. This is the first time I've actually seen inside it.
Oh. Looks like a bunker that's fairly filled up with dirt.
Yeah.
That's
It's a bit of waste, but that's what you do when you refurbish the fort for another use.
Well, that was the problem. So this whole driveway, and I was noticing that as I came in, this whole driveway just leads up to this new post use. And so I was looking at that when I came in and said, well, wait a minute, there's a couple of arches at foot height. That's not normal. This is built up just to hold the road.
Yeah.
Because I was wondering why. Okay, that was the weirdest moat I'd ever seen. That makes sense. Well, you know, somewhat.
So right now we are underneath the great main tower. It's straight up above here. And this well is to change the cannons once the barrels are destroyed. They got like 650 shots before they cannot hit anything anymore. And then we would have replacement barrels down here. So 3 ton of gun that goes up there with a simple pulley system, hand-held, obviously.
Of course.
And there's not a lot of room because the guns are long. But there's just exactly enough room because we actually tested it when we replaced the old guns that were lost after the First World War. So it's barely room enough to get the guns up, but it's doable.
Alright, so look.
And then this bit over here is the ammunition elevator. It's hand-driven, obviously, because electricity wasn't that much of an idea yet. The original staircase was too ruined by time. to actually allow people to crawl safely around in it. So this is one of the few things that we have actually been allowed to replace and repair, because mostly as this is so protected as it is, we are not allowed to touch anything. But in order to show people the big tower, we were allowed to put in new stairs to make sure that people had access to the tower.
Does it look like the old one, or?
It looks as much as the old one, and as far as I know, we've kept as much of the old one as possible and integrated it into the new bits.
Well, in that case.
Skal vi se herude.
So, now we're back in the day when you're hand cranking your cannon.
Yep.
Holy hell. This is something you don't see every day.
And that's the entire 100-ton turnable tower of German design, a company called Counterweight. And it's fully functional 130 years after we installed it. This is amazing. And the only parts that we replaced are the wooden parts on the floor and the beams we use to turn the tower.
So it runs on little wheels.
Yeah.
When was this built?
The fort was finished in 92, so between 1890 and 92.
So I wonder when it was, one thing is when it was installed, I wonder when it was built and designed.
Counterweight was bought by Coop, so you have to ask Coop about getting the designs for the towers if they have any records of that from the First World War.
And the Russians stole them after the Second World War.
Yeah.
So what is that there? That's for the hole for the cannons.
Yeah, this is a hole for the cannon. Actually, you would remove the floor and take it through there, because what you see there is the hydraulics to lift and lower the back end of the gun. But
so you had
show you a lot about that.
Oil-filled hydraulics.
Nope. These are some of the first hydraulics in Denmark. And they're so old that they're not using oil, but glycerin.
Glycerin?
Yes.
That sounds interesting. So you have a foreman up here?
It depends. I've seen records saying 6-man and records saying 8-man. The most comfortable number.
And so you write down here what direction, what is in the different directions?
These are the important bits. You see, this one is a railroad bridge over the canal, which is a flooding area. We have to defend that. And if you cannot defend the bridge, we will destroy it, because there's no reason if you have to have a flooding if you can just march over it. These are industrial areas with border mills. And if the Germans took that, that would be free energy, so we're a bit of salting the ground. If they come, destroy the water mills. We have over here, the Lyngby Fort, which is our closest neighbor in that direction.
The big pen of where you are, and we're on degrees.
Yes. We have 628 degrees. And that is, of course, 200 times pi. Swedish guns, basically just the barrels. This one is not supposed to stand here. Behind you, you see the ammunition elevator that continues the way up. This weird little thing actually requires you to know that this part, all of this, was not supposed to be here originally. This is installed later than the original installation. And that little thing is a cage that hangs up here. And as you can see, there's a handle where you can turn some wheels, and that's a ventilation system. There's a fan up here. So this guy hangs in the cage up here with the ventilation system, and he reads
The numbers.
the direction as well, yes. So that's his job. One small man in a small cage hanging under the turnable tower, turning a small fan to keep all of the smoke out of the tower, which is impossible for him.
And pre-World War I smoke was a big problem.
Yeah,
It was
guns.
very dirty and very toxic.
Yeah.
And so where would the gun commander be? He would be upstairs?
The one?
The gun commander?
Yeah. No, you have a commander down here, but he will help push the tower. Do you want to try? Ja, stop. Jeg hjælper dig. Du er i gang.
Come here and tell me I can't turn the fucking gun. Holy shit, this is heavy. You're right.
Put den anden vej.
Okay. This is a little easier for a while. And this is where I found it. Where's the 6 other people we need?
1, 2, 3. Færdig.
Oh wow. You're right, this is heavy.
It is, that's 100 tons of tower. And it's geared that we're only pushing 10 ton. There's a big gear down there, a big gear over here. Turning the big gear over there. Turning the tower. Turning the opposite direction of what we are moving. I want to see this gearbox.
Alright. Yeah. Yeah, I see what you're saying.
So there's only 10 ton for pushing, but we're still moving over the 100 ton. And you have to turn it down here 10.5 times to turn the tower 1 time. It's absolutely beautiful.
So it's not even 1-to-1.
Nope. You cannot push it if it's 100 ton you're pushing. That's impossible.
So what's the fastest they could turn it a full 365?
Supposed to be a minute. Or 2 minutes. Again, conflicting papers because it had several different commanders giving different orders at the time, so we have conflicting papers from various commanders. It's served for 30 years, so there's enough time to
Make 30 different or...
Turning this tower once every 2 minutes, 8 man, that's going to be a hard work.
Yeah.
But it's highly doubtful anybody will ever actually have to do that for 8 hours.
I will say, for crawling up into a turret, this is the prettiest hallway I've walked through. Usually it's very small, cramped metal ladders. Holy thing, this is big as a fucking house.
It is.
This is enormous.
And extremely unpleasant once you get inside.
So you do the whole walk around?
No, you cannot anymore. First of all, look at that. You cannot squeeze through here. This is a brake mechanism to make sure the tower doesn't turn on fire.
Oh, so, okay, so, alright.
Brakes. And that's a 100-ton tower. If you get caught out here and the walkways out here, it's not going to stop.
No. This is the biggest turret I have been in for... except for the naval tower from the Bismarck.
Yeah.
This is the biggest dome I have ever been in.
But this is almost half the weight. The dome is almost half the weight of the tower. It's 47 ton. We got 47 ton tower. We got 6-ton guns. And then we even have a shield that's buried around the tower of another 100 tons of tower. So in its entirety, that's 200 tons of bunker tower. The German design turns instead of hiding the gun ports below the ground. So there's no lifting this up and down.
So what is this, 30 centimeters of steel?
I'm not actually sure. It changes a bit because of the German design. It's supposed to be thicker at this side and a bit thinner at that side, because if you are turning the gun ports away from the enemy, we are expecting the gunshots to hit in this area. But you can see it up there, the average, I guess, more or less, thickness.
So this was an observation dome?
So yeah, you can observe from there, but you can also actually direct the guns, aim the guns from there as well.
So what is that? That's was there a hatch?
No, that's the aiming device.
That's the aiming device.
Yeah.
So this was direct fire?
Exactly.
This was direct fire?
Yeah. Put a heavy steel wire through that. Up here.
So that's how you get the replacement barrel up from.
We got, unfortunately, the original eyes to put the wire through up here are gone, so we have modern replacements.
That's all right. When they rust, they'll look the same.
Yeah. So the wire goes through that and onto the gun, and the gun can be lifted up and lowered down through the hole in the floor.
And they're 6 tons per barrel.
Yes. No, they're not 6 tons. Did I say 6 tons for both barrels? 3 tons each. Sorry.
Okay. All right. Wow. Yeah, that makes a difference.
Doesn't make a difference.
This is where you need the horses.
Yeah. This is a Swedish design, by the way. Let's see if we can see that.
Bofors?
Yeah. Actually, it's a company that I tried to research, and all I can see is that Bofors bought the original company. It says right down here, Finspång, on the bottom of the barrel.
Oh, yes. Yes.
And as you can see here, built in, what does this one say, 1889? You can even see that it was built for one of the Danish kings. It's actually King Frederik.
So that is similar to the breech locking mechanism on the HMS Warrior.
It seems pretty sensible standard.
So you just close?
Yeah, like this. And if you can lock it like that. So you push down here on the bar here, so lock it there, and it's ready to go.
And you guys actually fire these, well, once a month?
Once a month, only half a kilo of gunpowder. We have them pressure tested by army engineers, and they say that half a kilo of gunpowder, we're absolutely safe and certain that they will not take any damage. So more than that. But half a kilo of gunpowder has a security distance of 100 meters in front of it. And when we shoot it, the windows in the area rattle. It's seriously horrible for the people working in here.
It's only like 40-some degrees. It's only really hot.
Yeah, it's this dome, the 74 tons of steel that just sucks up the sun's energy and then sends it down here. Yep. So at the warmest days, without the guns shooting, it's somewhere between 40 and 50 degrees Celsius. That's nasty. And once the guns start shooting, of course, they will produce a lot of heat with up to 3 kilos of gunpowder. So that was part of it, and you work really hard. You see the old pumps over here. It's all about
the ventilation.
No, that's these are the hydraulic pumps with the glycerin for lifting and lowering the back end of the gun.
Oh.
So that's pretty hard work. You got 38 kilo ammunition. You got the locking mechanism, and you got 2 small people running around outside dealing with ammunition. Got to be small because less chance to get squashed by the tower when it turns. Got 2 people on the pumps, 2 people on the loading. You got an officer. So that's 11 people in this tower, or 9 depending on whether there's 1 people at the pump. It changes again depending on what officer commander we have. So 9 or 11 people up in this heat wearing uniforms. You can take off the jackets, but you have to put on a special cloth, another thin jacket to make sure that your uniform didn't get dirty. Of course. So that's a lot of hard work in the heat. So the sound up here was insane, dangerous, and the soldier said that you would be stunned for up to 10 seconds before you got back to work. Also says that this training exercises they've done also said that it would get better. They would get used to it somewhat, so the stunned period after shooting the guns were a bit shorter. And then in the beginning we would use black powder, of course, so we had this heavy white smoke that rips your lungs and get teary eyes. It's toxic, it's everything unpleasant, and you have the little guy in the little cage downstairs with the small ventilator, the small fan. So being a soldier up here in war must have been absolute hell.
What about the winter? Was it then?
Yeah, but this is exact opposite in the winter because if there's snow on it. It doesn't get this heat from the sun. It just gets this cold from the snow. So 0 degrees, and this is a refrigerator.
That's what figures. It's just the opposite reverse, and it was
exactly.
Freezing as cold. Okay, fine.
So this place is probably one of the worst places to be if you're a soldier. It's one of the best places to be if you're a historical guide.
What caliber is this?
It's 15 centimeter.
15 centimeters.
These are the recoil brakes, because you are not allowed to fire both barrels at the same time. So you fire them with a few seconds between. So if you fire the right barrel and you do not use the brakes, the gun tower will turn. The recoil will actually push the tower. So that's nice. We have two recoil brakes, one on each side.
Yeah, there's no moving. They don't move back. There's no moving recoil.
Yes.
They do.
See this slide here. Oops, sorry. This slide here is the part of the recoil
rail
system. Yeah, so it moves, I think, as much as this.
Okay, so it does bounce back.
It does a lot. But you have to do something. You're shooting a 3 kilo charge, moving a 38 kilo steel object 5.5 kilometers in that direction. There's got to be an opposite reaction. Racing has been cleaning and refilling the tanks of glycerin and replacing the floor. Everything else is as it was. Because it's again protected, we're not allowed to repair it.
Oh, okay.
So we can clean it and hope that it works, and it does.
So that's so it's 125, 30 years old, and it still works.
It does.
So that's for the moving barrels up and down, and then what's that for?
This is part of that system. I'm not entirely sure how it works because we try not to use it anymore.
Yeah.
We really do not want to destroy it now that it's still working.
This is just fascinating to see. And this was literally physically to grab this and pump it.
Yeah, you can try it if you want.
I thought it was just
a few pumps if you just to get a feeling of
Why do I feel set up again? Holy shit. Okay, then I'll start moving the whole machine.
Yeah, maybe we try the other one.
Of course, there's one for each barrel.
The other one moves. But let's see, things are needing a bit of cleaning.
The old conversation that always happens when it comes to old fortresses is, what is this? Now, right up here from the stairs, we have this, which is, well, theoretically for the exhaust pipe, although this exhaust pipe is new, granted, but it very much does look like a firing port. I'll see what it looks like from the outside, and it is on the height of the mound outside.
Now, I do love these old classic uniforms from back in the day. Unfortunately, the shiny woolen gray uniform of that era had one really significant drawback. In moonlight, the gray wool, shining, would shine and reflect the moon, leaving the Danish soldiers to be somewhat reflective and shiny. Not really that productive for secrecy.
So now we're in the center of the fort?
Yes. We've just seen the biggest tower, the 15 centimeter guns. This is a counterweight for a French or Belgian designed tower for 75 millimeter guns. You can see the mechanism supposedly still works, the smith says, but we are in dire need of money for repairs because we can restore it without actually replacing any parts. But it's about now. If it's not happening now, it's not going to happen now.
So how do you get into the tower?
You go upstairs, but I want you to see down here. This is also the generator room. This is where we had a big diesel engine standing right here.
The diesel engine was right here in the center of the fort.
Yes.
That sounds like
used to expand in every direction, not just to this room.
That sounds like a really loud and bad idea.
It is.
So where's the fuel tanks?
In here, I guess. We've never seen it. I don't have any pictures. I haven't seen any pictures of it. I only saw the room they built because this was too much for the officers.
And that's when they moved the generator outside?
Yeah.
So this is where they thought it was going to be, and then they moved it outside?
Yeah, they had it in here. They tested it a few times, and the officers said, no, this is too loud. We cannot have it. We have to move it out.
Yeah.
Nothing about the fumes, nothing about the people working in the environment, just the officers not enjoying it.
What the hell are the people working in the environment?
Nothing else.
We are in a dome. We're in a little dome in the middle, and with 3 holes, so...
We're going up the stairs.
Oh, I love this. I love more stuff. I love when people say that.
More wonderful surprises for you.
I'll buy you an ice cream.
Jeg vil køre ned her fra Lyngby, så begynder at klage den gang.
Det var da ikke godt. Det skal du da lade være med.
Ja, det skal jeg også. So this area is quite special in a lot of ways. From this part in that direction, it's identical from this part in that direction. It's a square fort basically because it's bigger. This is a central fort. If you have a look at it over here, we have a small picture. This is 22 meters above sea level. So we direct the water in through here. And then there was the flooding area was cut out all in this direction. And over here it would go down here, back here out to Husum, where the western ramparts start. And there's a canal in front of that, and then go all the way around Copenhagen down there. But it also required this fort to be in the center to protect it with the infantry barracks. And the infantry barracks are quite a huge deal because, again, no other place has them. We have them specifically for the purpose of defending the flooding area. And since it's privately funded, Sommerfeld went sort of crazy and just built the biggest bloody fort that he could for the money he had access to. Because none of the other forts had the same founding as this fort. He really did have a lot of money, and he spent more than he had. So there's a lot of different reasons why this is the only square fort, but mainly because Sommerfeld had more money.
You could afford another corner.
Yeah, exactly. But it is twice as big, more or less, than the other
So
forts.
what was the total armament here? You had the two big guns.
Yeah, well, let's have a look at that, because we didn't show you yet. We had two Gatling guns and two towers in each corner in that direction. We have the two 75mm gun in that direction. We have two 15cm guns, same caliber as the big one we saw, but only short-barreled in these towers here.
This I know. I know this. I spent so much time in these. This is the same. Yes, this is the same as Fort de Plappeville. This is a small. This dome doesn't. Does it go up?
No, this is just like the other big dome, German design. It just turns.
And you had the chains hanging over here for the replacement barrel.
Yeah.
And it was hand cranked. And you had the munition elevator.
It comes up from the slide over here.
Cool.
The stairs are replaced, but they look like the original. So there's a slide here that goes up and down. Short barrel Krupp 15cm guns.
They started with one that would go up 5 centimeters, just to lift it free, and then it would turn, but only 5 centimeters.
But that's that one.
Okay, then it probably was. Then it's the same that was at Fort Mutzig, that was designed by the Prussians.
The thing is, again, the weapons. This is a privately funded fort, and we couldn't afford our own weapons, which means that all the towers, except for the main tower, they took what they had in storage and built the concrete to fit those towers and refitted the towers for this. And that means that we have two 56mm guns in that direction, two 75mm guns, two 15cm guns, another two 15cm guns, and the small 47mm gun in front. And it's just a mess of different ammunition. And this is an observation tower that goes up and down with the most rudimentary technology. Still works. And there's supposed to be a very small table and a very tiny chair that you can barely put your butt on, more like a shelf. And circling that all around so you can see what you're looking at. And you can go up and see it. There's nothing but the metal dome now, but
if there's what I think there is, I found one. Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. Little observation dome. I even rebuilt the platform so it's not full of mold and dead spiders. It's just not the same without mold and dead spiders. But you know, I'll just have to do. Well, it does smell a little bit like mold and dead spiders, but.
It's an old place.
And it's nice and warm. It's nice and toasty.
Yeah. It's good to be a soldier.
Would this rotate?
Yeah, it rotates 360.
Well, then there's something missing.
Yeah, the mechanism to turn the tower is missing, and I'm not sure where that would have been, but it's about to turn. But I think maybe it's just the top dome, maybe it's hand cranked.
It would be,
Yeah.
but there would have to be a stick onto the platform,
Exactly.
either to that or to this.
Yeah.
Huh.
So there are things missing, and this is again one of the places that has been re-engineered to give people a sense of what it was.
And there's only one vision port.
Yeah, there's not a lot.
So I've never seen a dome with just one vision port.
No?
No, never. This is usually they have like at least 3,
Yeah.
and usually 5. I've never seen one with just one.
So we've shown you something new.
Yes, you have. It's the first one vision dome port I've ever seen. Outstanding. So this really was the beginning of the technology
Yeah.
for forts and for armor integrated in forts.
Yes. And yet again, these towers, all of them, were what we had on our own shelves. They were not bought for this fort, which means they are older than 1892.
The big dome, was that? So was that one of our own?
No, the big dome, the big tower was bought by Counterweight, and it was produced in Germany for the occasion, and it was transported on rails all the way up here.
But that means that it would have existed in some sort of design at least since 1885.
Yeah, I guess so.
I mean, they didn't just build. They started building the fort with a concept in mind of these domes.
Yeah,
So they wouldn't have done that unless they existed.
I think so too.
So we're looking at domes probably from the 1880s,
That's what I expect, yes.
and that was a Danish dome produced that we had.
Yeah, I'm not sure who actually produced it, where we bought it, but they were in stock because we bought it earlier. This is a 75mm tower. I would like to let you have a look up there, but it's not safe.
That never stopped me. If I say it on camera that I'm not going to sue you if I fall down, I just did it. You feel safe?
I feel safe enough to let you do it, but please don't get hurt.
If I get hurt, it'll be my fault. If I die, it'll be my fault. And if I die, you have to edit the whole series.
Thank you.
The hard drive's in my bag.
Oh shit, but that's a shitty part of the job.
Yeah, there's about 3,000 hours of filming.
Jesus.
So,
You're leaving me with that?
yeah, but in my car there's 2 computers as well. You get an Apple. And a... Alright, so we have air. And we have... Is this to bring up this barrel, or...?
Yeah, I'm not sure because it looks like part of the lifting mechanism. This is a hole for the big counterweight, so I think that's a counterweight.
That's
for
this the
tower.
counterweight.
So it's bringing up the entire tower 15 centimeters or something like
So
that.
this was a 75mm with a counterweight.
Exactly.
Oh God, I love this thing.
And I'm pretty sure that it's either Belgian or French.
Oh yes. Oh, and look at the handle. It's just so pristine, and you still have writing in here.
Yeah, I suppose so. We are not allowed to
Remove anything.
paint it or remove it or anything.
The floor looks absolutely good condition,
Yeah.
and this is where the cannon would be. And yeah, here you have on the walls, you have written the directions of fire, and you have the little tablet here. I guess you could write on here.
Yeah.
That's where the cannon was. The cannon has been replaced by a piece of paper.
Yes.
And there's is there false ceiling?
Yeah, unfortunately, I think that most of those holes have been locked. Like in the short barrel, 15 centimeters tower, the steel plate has been welded shut. So something looks a bit out of place. except the missing gun is probably one of the things they did to secure the place against humidity.
Yeah, probably, yeah. So, but do you have vision, or is this a light? There's a light.
Yeah.
That was a light.
Again, that's the only electrical parts in this place are lighting. Oh, wait, does this work? No.
So you had this for the turning, and another light, and this for the shells, another shelf for the 75mm shells. We got to find out who made this. And this was installed as well, original time.
No, that's again, this is one tower that was bought before the design of the fort. So we had it in stock, and it was the fort was built around fitting the tower in, because there's a lot of that going on.
So wait now, I am standing in a tower that is, this fort was designed in 1885, right?
Yes.
And it was designed around this that was actually in stock, which means it had been owned for a little while.
Yeah, I have no idea how long, and I'm not entirely sure which towers were in stock. And my sources are also a little sketchy, so there is a slight possibility that this was bought for the tower, but to my knowledge, and that's enough talk about that, to my knowledge, yes, this is older than 86. This is part of the stockpile. Once you start shooting, you would put ammunition here.
And then they would be hand lifted up.
Yep.
Love it. And there's the fan.
Exactly. It's hand cranked, and it's only used during shooting of the guns. There's no reason to use the fans. The natural airflow were deemed enough.
But that fan would bring the air out here or through another pipe?
I'm not sure where it would go, but it cleans the gun smoke out. That's the point of it.
And then it fills up the hallway.
Hopefully it goes out.
And then you have another turret here and another turret there.
Yeah, exact same on the other side. 15 centimeter, an observation post, and a gun turret with light in it. But this tower is the one that has been most hurt by time, the 75mm tower.
This one? Yeah. Well, I mean, it's kind of hard to say. It looks, from down here, it looks better shape.
Yeah, but that's basically when you look at the floor here, that's where the rust sets in, right?
Yeah.
And if you look at the counterweight mechanism, that's where you really see the hurt on the tower.
Yeah.
So this is the one tower that we plan to seal once it's been as restored as it can be. So we try to make a time lock on it and says this is what the tower looked like when we took it over. We just again another observation post.
Are you not working? Are you working on it? It looks like you're working on it.
No, this is just this is again in the summer the moisture in this place is insane. So this is where we have moisture control. When you go downstairs, you see the slides on the side. That's for the ammunition. So it's a great ammunition slide instead of an elevator. And if you look, you can see the counterweight.
Yes, that's the counterweight.
So all of that block of metal is a counterweight, but the little block of 500 kilos, once you turn the crank, you can actually lift it up and lock it in place in the big one. So it gets 500 kilos heavier, which aligns very well with the weight of the 75mm towers and makes it very easy to pull it up and down. Yeah, that's a huge drive that supports the dehumidifier.
I'm just seeing tunnels, tough tunnels.
And even with all that going on, and even with this being fairly dry weather, we still have moist spots on the floor.
And you have electrical in the roof, in the ceiling?
Yes, always not perfect.
Yes.
There's no security hazards here. Nothing to see. And if you look at the floor here, it's the wood is rotting. There's actually mushrooms growing over here.
Oh, good. The one I'm standing on.
Yes.
I can't help that I'm also standing underneath a thing.
This is the Gatling gun tower. Yeah, and the stairs look solid, fairly solid. Der er selvfølgelig en panserdom ud til bagindgangen. Og der har også været en stormkilder dernede, der er stadig. Og så kommer vi ud til infanteribakken.
So this is the access.
And this is the back exit.
Yeah, so there's a firing port in the metal door up there,
Yeah.
and they get hung up on the grid.
Yeah.
So you have the 3 exits
And
into the fort.
Alle de forter, vi har på nordfronten, der er det her det eneste, der er åbent, ikke? For alvor. Det er museumsfortet.
Well, through this series, you have now seen me crawl up and down through a lot of strange holes. But the first time, I get to climb up and see a Gatling gun. Yes.
And the Gatling gun is not there.
Oh. But a dome is. Gatling gun dome. The affutage looks really good shape.
Yeah.
Well oiled and everything.
Yeah, but this is the one tower. I think that if we manage to restore any of the Gatling gun towers, this will be the one. So whether it's actually Gatling guns or just magazine guns, I don't know. But we have reason to believe that it was probably Gatling guns.
Well, you have the affutage for them, for something.
Yeah.
And this is where, so a guy would be here cranking this?
Yeah.
Oh, he would stand on this platform right here.
I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
And then crank this, so this would turn it around.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the elevation the gunner would do on its own up here,
Yeah.
on that little wheel underneath the gun would be the elevation.
Yes.
Okay, so 4
If you
dudes.
fly over the tower, over the fort, you will see the one with the tagpap. Those are these towers.
There you go. The Gatling Tower. I have got to figure out if there ever was any other steel domes with Gatling guns anywhere.
Yeah.
I'd never heard of one. I mean, we're almost talking American Civil War time.
Yes. The thing is, we have records saying that Danish soldiers had the Gatling gun operating at 900 shots a minute, though they were designed to shoot 600 shots a minute. And they were operating so fast that they were in danger of actually ruining the weapon. It was too much. We have these stories in the history books from the military. Again, no machinery, no electric machinery, no diesel machinery, nothing, just hand cranked everything.
Up here are the cannons, are the 75 and the Gatling guns and the back entrances. And down here is the entrance to the, or back entrance to the munition storage. So all these here on the right are munition storage.
That's great.
And you have everything, and so beautiful, the arches carry on. Just like they do in the actual storage.
Yeah. Protect the fort.
In the old munition storage.
Yes.
Is there any reason why the floor is sloping upwards?
I don't know, but I suspect that it's easier to roll the ammunition out.
And these are the munitions carry case.
Yeah.
Oh, I saw one in the back room.
Oh, but yeah, of course.
They were sitting on one of the shelves.
Yeah.
This is still the best uniform that was ever made and issued, and I just want to point that out to Well, my commanding general really, but he's really not going to be able to do anything about it. And of course the Danish army took upon themselves to take the great quality and make a really, really nice multicam, which is far better in quality than the one we're issued today. Do you think anyone's paying attention to me saying this?
Nope.
I didn't think so either. Now these small holes on the Maginot Fort and the 1901 fort, these were for the installation, where they had hooks here to install them.
You can see over here. It looks like the nut. Like there's a
little hatch in there.
Exactly.
Yeah. So they don't go all the way through. And the main port, and then the observation, and the machine gun. No, that's a 75mm down there. But you have so much cool armament sitting around here. This enormous dome. You have all these cannons, Gatling guns, and he's hiding a little 56mm raising cupola behind me. There's 2 of those, and apparently they're in perfect condition, but they're hidden in secret and they're hard to get to. I just love this. There's just armament upon armament upon armament. I got the key to get up into the unknown storage room of the 56mm, which is hiding up here. It's gonna be taking a little work, but it's worth it. Spiders in my hair, spiders in my hair. Oh, that's hard. Oh, cool. Yeah. Oh, wicked. All right.
You feel safe?
Oh, yeah. Like the inside of an egg. Give me. Platform number 1. Oh, there's even a railing. An old original rail. And there's several spiders nesting in my hair. And the old metal plates are coming there, a little rusty. But that's okay. I'm only sitting my ass on them. Yes. Alright, ventilation is blocked off. You can make it up here, it's not a problem at all. Alright, it's full of some things. Shit.
I'm just gonna let you do it.
Where's my gun sling? I have a rifle sling in my bag that I usually use when I climb these things with a camera. So I don't have to fight off the spiders. Spiders everywhere. They have names. Holy shit, this is cool. You really want to come see this, dude.
I do.
There's shelves. All the shelves are labeled with the grenades. This is wicked. And is there a weight on this? I think. Lots of shelves. Shelves all the way around. Oh, wow, what the hell? This is... Wow, what is this? What a thing. Alright, there's only one way to do this. More spiders. And their children. And their children's children. Oh, this is cool. Yes. There's a lever up here. Yes, why is there a lever up here? The floor is
Rotten. Rusty.
What comes after rotten?
Yeah. I'm still on it.
Yeah, I don't think that's an option. Alright, so here's the footage for the dome. Awesome. There's the plate, there's the maker's plate. There's the maker's plate. I can read it. It's in good shape. It's in really good shape. Just need to move my fat ass one more step up, so lots of rust. But it's alright, the rust is soft to sit on. So, okay. There's the mark. There's the maker's mark. I'll zoom in on that. Yes. I see it. 1892. Gunderson is a Swedish turret. Oh, that's wicked. Oh, this is cool. A little observation dome up there, I think maybe for the mechanism for the guns. And this looks like in really good shape. It's still greased. There's a lever here. When was the last time somebody was up here?
About 10 years ago.
20 years ago.
10.
10.
Yeah. But they only went up to have a look and then went back down.
Oh, they should come back. You guys gotta restore this.
Yes.
I mean, the metal is in good enough shape. The floor just needs, the floor needs a new floor. And you have shelvings all the way around for the shells.
Probably marked and written. And
Oh yeah. There's all that rust that has moved over onto the seat or onto the floor. And that's what's falling down. It's not falling off something, it's just laying on the floor.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, if fix the floor and everything else is in pretty good shape. I think this is totally restorable.
I think so too. I mean, compared to what the smiths are saying about all of the other things we have, I was told that these toe towers were in very good condition. So
Yeah. I mean, this is not bad at all.
Adventurers,
That's what I saw.
explorers. That's what it is.
Yes. Oh, that was cool.
Are you getting a bit of cardio too?
I'm doing the one arm step. Oh, this is awesome. So 56 millimeter.
Yes.
Turret is Swedish. Floor is shit. And then was there a weight? There a counterweight.
Yeah, these are all listable turrets.
So of course it is, because it's down. So
Yeah.
so it raise up, and that's what the weight is. That's what the lever is for. There's a lever up there.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And there's some electricity went up there as well. So you had light up there.
Yeah, that would be electric light.
Yeah, that's the original cable there.
That's beautiful.
I know. That's just. And you know what? This is it.
Somebody installed some modern electronics up there. That's probably a fire sensor.
Yeah, there's that, but I think this is the original lamp.
Yeah, that would make sense. It would be up there.
Should
So basically, as I said, this room, these two towers have been virtually untouched.
The defense in Copenhagen here is supposed to be 150,000 soldiers, and the entire defense force in Denmark during the First World War I was designed to have 180,000, which means only 30,000 soldiers outside of Copenhagen. And we had the first shift called in during 1915, which was 50,000 men in Copenhagen. Which means that we had another 100,000 men out in the fields, out in their factories, wherever they worked, ready to come in with 8 hours notice and 16 hours notice to fill the third and the second and the third shift. So that was 180,000 men trained to join the army at 16 hours notice, which is the highest number of soldiers ready to join the ranks ever in Danish history.
And they were called up for 1915 for World War I.
Yeah, the first shift was the 50,000 men in Denmark, in Copenhagen that is, and the 10,000 soldiers spread out by the German border in Jylland and some in Bornholm.
So this fort was actually manned during the last 3 years of World War I?
Yeah, we had the full first shift, well, all of the forts, all of the ramparts, everything had full manning for the first shift, and then 8 hours for the second shift and 16 hours for the last shift. So we will be ready in one day to mobilize a full force of 180,000 soldiers.
One of the parts of the defenses of Copenhagen was a coastal battery next to Charlottenlund, which is appropriately named Charlottenlund Fort. It too was constructed in 1886 to 88, and it continuously was upgraded with more guns, crew shelters. Its main armament was heavy howitzers, protected by a 33-meter thick earth wall facing the sea. It was surrounded on all sides by a 40-meter wide moat filled with water, as well as earth ramparts and close defensive positions. Initially, there was only wooden barracks for the crews, but later proper shelters were constructed, quite a few in fact. Now initially the fort had 4 35-centimeter howitzers and 2 15-centimeter cannons, 2 47-millimeter rapid-firing cannons, and 2 75-millimeter cannons for closer defense. To this there were added 2 90-centimeter projectors, and they had 2 rangefinders installed as well. In 1910, a modernization began and added to the 5 ammunition stores already existing a large casemate with machine room and 7 crew shelters. They also added 2 120-millimeter cannons, and it does get a little crowded here, so pay attention. They then also added 8 29-centimeter howitzers to the 35-centimeter howitzers, and for close defense, 2 37-millimeter rotating cannons. They also obtained 10 recoiling rifles, and foundations for 2 17-centimeter cannons were also laid, but these were not installed. They also installed a 47-millimeter anti-balloon cannon, and placed 2 150-centimeter projectors, one of them in an elevator. This is really fancy stuff for 1910.
There's 2 of those, 2 fire controls, 1 for each battery.
Now, of course, the observation turrets were encased in steel, and a small metal caponnier facing the rear part of the moat. I do love those, although in the summer I would believe this was a bit of a hot box. But at this point, I am kind of confused as to exactly how many different types of ammunition this very small fort would need. It seems bristling with guns, cannons, howitzers pointing in every direction. Well, actually, they're only pointing out to sea, so it sort of is more of a battery. But do remember, this was constructed in the time of the centralized fort, where everything is close together. Lessons still had to be learned, so all of this was placed in an area 300 meters by 130 meters only. It's a really, really cool place to see, and extremely heavy armed. That it was.
I'm imagining this bridge and this platform was here when the fort was constructed. Big howitzers here were hardly interested for World War II or either to remove around World War I. Very interesting configuration, straightforward sea fort, tons of howitzers pointing out to sea, fire control, munitions inside. Now the configuration of this casemate is different than the other one over there. Although I am absolutely certain the hole in the center is not for weaponry or cannon. This must have been for fire control. Possibly it's been repaired. It is very rusty, and it is in desperate need of some sort of repair and restoration work. Otherwise, it will not be here for very long. I hope somebody's on top of this while it's still here. And here you have 2 more batteries of 4 heavy howitzers, another fire control, and another 4 howitzers.
And barely a kilometer or 2 away inland is the next fort, and the next one, and the next one, like a string of pearls. And certainly most of the land forts were built according to the inspiration gained from Brailmont, as most of those were centralized forts with a lot of guns and weaponry in a very small parcel of land. something that would cost a lot of lives, especially during World War I. And I will show you many of the examples of those besides the ones I've already visited with you. One of them was Lyngby Fort, now engulfed by the sprawling cities surrounding it and long since stripped of its domes and armament. It was also constructed during the Great Fortress build from 1887, and it's built in a classic triangular fort and constructed with private funds as well, just like Garda Hoy. However, less funds, so they could only afford 3 corners, not the 4 of Garda Hoy. Of course, one of the entrances that would lead right into the moats was protected. Here, leading down one of the long sides are the firing positions, and here are the others. It's all of water, so if any kind of grenades or shells would land there, they would land and detonate in the water, protecting the fort from shrapnel. This is the closest defensive positions for this long side, and identical on the other side are just the same. However, you can still clearly see the circles left from the removed domes. It was very top-heavy and very well armed. 4 15-centimeter cannons, 3 shorter 3-centimeter cannons, 2 75 rapid-firing cannons, and 1 mitrailleuse in a racing turret. There was also 4 more 47mm cannons and 6 more mitrailleuses and 8 recoiling rifles for close defense. To that, I do have to add that at the time of the 1880s, the mitrailleuse was obsolete and had seen its heyday during the Franco-Prussian War, so I do hope the Danes got them rather cheap. The many fortresses surrounding Copenhagen are of important historical value. They were built and upgraded as the historical evolution of modern fortress warfare peaked at that time. Yet they were all obsolete by the end of World War I. They were at the time of their heyday a formidable defensive line and kept the Germans at bay on several notes, as we've heard. But this brings us to World War I, which I can promise you was not just a trench war. This was a war of fortresses and steel and cement. I hope you enjoy history and military history as much as I love bringing it to you. And if you want to see more of the photos and documents I've used for these episodes, documentation so on, you can go to lostbattlefields.com. And if you feel like helping me out traveling around the world to some of these far-flung locations like Werner von Braun's first test stand behind me, or Deepna's nuclear reactor down there, or the Maginot Line over there, you can donate on PayPal, protection@serviceint.com. It'll be right here, and it is also on lostbattlefields.com. You absolutely don't have to, but I appreciate any help, and I love all you guys for all the support you've shown me, because history is important. We all know that, and I'm going to bring it to you.